Welcome back to Full Spectrum Frontiers, the podcast where we peel back the layers of conflict, national security, and societal change to explore the impact on all of us, the average citizens trying to navigate an increasingly complex world. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton, and today we're diving into a topic that's got people buzzing: drones. No, not the kind that deliver your online shopping or capture stunning wedding footage, but the ones that are showing up over U.S. military bases, causing more questions than answers. Now, if you've been following the news, you've probably heard about these mysterious, larger-than-average drones zipping around on military installations in places like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and even Virginia last year. They seem to pop up out of nowhere, hover like they own the airspace, and then vanish before anyone can get a solid answer on what they're doing or who's behind them. It's like a modern-day aerial whodunit. But let's pump the brakes here for a second. Why should you care? After all, if you're not stationed at a military base or running classified operations, what do these drone sightings have to do with your life? The short answer: everything. These aren't just toys in the sky. They're a microcosm of how technology, security, and geopolitics intersect, and the implications of these seemingly small events ripple out into society in ways you might not expect. Today, we're breaking it all down. We'll explore the history of drone sightings, the possible explanations, from espionage to plain old paranoia, and what this all means for national security and your personal sense of safety. Along the way, we'll ask some tough questions about where the line is between defense and invasion of privacy, and whether our current laws and tech are keeping pace with these rapid developments. As always, my goal is to educate, inspire, and maybe even entertain you while we untangle these complex topics. And hey, if you like what you hear, don't forget to hit that like button, share this episode with your friends, and leave a review. Your support is what keeps Full Spectrum Frontiers pushing forward into the unknown. All right, let's gear up and launch into today's episode. Unidentified drones over the U.S., threats, tech, and the future of security. Let's kick things off with a closer look at the drones themselves. The who, what, when, where, and why of these flying enigmas. Now, drones are nothing new. They've been around for decades, but what we're dealing with here isn't your neighbor's DJI Phantom taking pictures of backyard BBQs. These drones are bigger, louder, and far more sophisticated. They're not here to deliver pizzas. They're here for something else entirely. The who and what. The drones reported buzzing around military bases in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are often described as larger than hobbyist models. Imagine something closer in size to a small aircraft than your average recreational drone. They're equipped with advanced tech, allowing them to hover for extended periods, fly in complex patterns, and evade detection. These are not off-the-shelf drones. They've either been heavily modified or purpose-built. So who's flying them? That's the multi-million-dollar question. Speculation ranges from foreign actors testing our defenses to domestic entities conducting rogue surveillance. Or maybe someone with deep pockets and even deeper curiosity is just trying to see how far they can push the envelope. The truth? No one knows for sure. The when and where. Most of these sightings happen at night, often in the dead of winter when most of us are hunkered down, avoiding the cold. That's when these drones come alive, hovering over restricted airspace and critical infrastructure. We're talking military installations, power plants, and even major highways. The common denominator? These are places with high strategic value, sites where someone would want to gather intel or test response times. Take the sightings near Warren Grove Gunnery Range in New Jersey, for example. This isn't just any patch of land, it's a training ground for the Air National Guard. Or the sightings over Norfolk Naval Base in Virginia, the largest naval station in the world. Coincidence? I think not. The why. Here's where things get murkier. What's the purpose of these flyovers? There are a few working theories, and let's break them down. Espionage. The most obvious explanation is that these drones are being operated by foreign adversaries. Think China, Russia, or even rogue states like North Korea. The goal? To gather intel on military movements, vulnerabilities, or new tech being tested. It's like cyber espionage, but with wings. Testing our defenses. Another possibility is that these drones are being used to probe our air defense systems. How quickly can we detect them? How do we respond? Do we even notice them in the first place? These are critical questions if you're planning an aerial strategy, and drones offer a low-cost, low-risk way to get those answers. Commercial interests. Let's not rule out the possibility that some private entity is behind this. Maybe it's a tech company testing new hardware. Maybe it's a private contractor working on behalf of someone else. Either way, the lack of transparency is troubling. Domestic surveillance. Could these drones be part of some unauthorized domestic surveillance program? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. The intersection of technology and privacy has always been a gray area, and drones are the latest chapter in that ongoing debate. The unknown factor. And then there's the wild card. The idea that these drones aren't fully understood even by the people tracking them. Could they represent a new frontier in drone tech that even the military doesn't fully grasp yet? Or, let's get a little speculative here, could they be something even more unexplainable? Unidentified aerial phenomena, anyone? This lack of clarity is what makes these incidents so fascinating and so frustrating. We live in an era where data is king, and yet here we are scratching our heads over what should be relatively simple to identify, why it matters to you. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Bennett, this is all very interesting, but I don't live near a military base. Why should I care? Here's the thing. These incidents are a snapshot of larger trends. The way we deal with these drones, or fail to, says a lot about the state of our national security, our ability to adapt to new threats, and our willingness to confront uncomfortable questions about privacy, technology, and sovereignty. If someone or something can operate drones like these over military installations with impunity, what does that mean for the rest of us? Are our airports, power grids, and even personal spaces just as vulnerable? These are questions we'll dive deeper into as we move through this episode. For now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. How do these incidents fit into the broader history of drone activity, both in the U.S. and around the world? Spoiler alert, this isn't the first time drones have caused a stir. Drones might feel like a 21st century invention, but humanity has a long history of grappling with unidentified objects in the sky. From mysterious lights to unmarked aircraft, the idea of aerial threats isn't new. What's different now is the level of sophistication. Let's zoom out and look at how drone incidents fit into this broader historical context. Early sightings. The sky has always been busy. Before we had drones, we had, well, things we didn't understand. During World War II, Allied pilots reported seeing strange glowing objects in the skies over Europe. They called them Foo Fighters. Were these enemy tech, natural phenomena, or something else entirely? To this day, no one knows for sure. Fast forward to the Cold War, and you have the U-2 spy plane and SR-71 Blackbird making headlines. These aircraft were so advanced for their time that they were often mistaken for UFOs. The point is, we've always had cutting-edge aerial tech testing the limits of what's possible, and it's often been misinterpreted by those who weren't in the loop. The dawn of drones. The first real drones came into play during the Vietnam War. Back then, they were primarily used for reconnaissance. They weren't the sleek quad-prop marvels we see today. They were clunky, noisy, and unreliable. But they got the job done, and that was enough to spark the military's interest in further developing unmanned systems. By the 1990s, drones like the Predator were making headlines. Equipped with surveillance cameras and later weapons, these drones became a cornerstone of U.S. military operations. They were game changers in conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan, providing real-time intel and precision strikes. But here's the thing. For every step forward in drone tech, there's been a corresponding leap in public concern. The more advanced these systems get, the more questions they raise about ethics, oversight, and potential misuse. Modern incidents, the drone swarms begin. Now we get to the juicy part, the drone swarm phenomenon. This isn't just a Hollywood plotline, it's a real thing. One of the most notable cases occurred in Colorado and Nebraska in late 2019 and early 2020. Large groups of drones were spotted flying in formation over rural areas, often near critical infrastructure. The sightings went on for weeks, sparking widespread speculation. What made these incidents so unnerving was the scale and precision of the drones' movements. These weren't hobbyist setups. They were coordinated, professional, and completely untraceable. Local authorities and the FAA launched investigations, but no definitive conclusions were ever reached. Sound familiar? It should, because these events mirror what's happening now on the East Coast. Virginia, 2023, the prequel to the current wave. Let's zero in on Virginia for a moment. Last year, a series of drone sightings around military bases in Norfolk and Richmond raised eyebrows. These drones exhibited similar characteristics to the ones we're seeing now. Large size, nighttime activity, and a knack for staying just outside the reach of detection systems. The Virginia incidents were notable for one other reason. They triggered a multi-agency response. The FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and even the military got involved. But despite all that firepower, the origins of the drones remain a mystery. It's almost as if these incidents are testing us, not just our defenses, but our ability to respond coherently. And so far, the grade isn't looking great. What's changed? The evolution of drone tech. One of the most striking things about these incidents is how quickly drone technology has evolved. What was cutting edge 5 years ago is now considered obsolete. Today's drones can fly farther, carry heavier payloads, and operate with greater autonomy than ever before. We're also seeing an explosion of drone availability. Thanks to the global supply chain, anyone with enough cash can buy a high-quality drone and outfit it with advanced tech. This democratization of drones is both exciting and terrifying. It's great for innovation, but it also opens the door for misuse. International parallels. We're not alone. Lest you think this is just a U.S. problem, let's take a quick detour abroad. In the United Kingdom, drones have been spotted near nuclear power plants, prompting serious security reviews. In Germany, unidentified drones have hovered over military bases, much like what we're seeing here. These international incidents suggest a broader trend. Whether it's espionage, sabotage, or something else entirely, drones are becoming a global security challenge. Why the history matters. Understanding this history is crucial for a few reasons. First, it shows us that these incidents don't happen in a vacuum. They're part of a larger narrative about the evolution of aerial technology and its impact on society. Second, it highlights the gaps in our current systems. If we've been dealing with aerial mysteries for decades, why haven't we gotten better at solving them? And finally, history gives us context. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and fear surrounding these incidents, but when you look at the bigger picture, you realize that we've been here before. The challenge now is to figure out how to move forward, smarter, stronger, and more prepared. Speaking of moving forward, in the next section, we're going to tackle the big question: what are the potential implications of these drone sightings? From espionage to privacy concerns, we'll unpack what this means for national security and for you. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of why these drone sightings matter. It's tempting to dismiss them as a curiosity, something to scratch your head at while scrolling through your news feed, but these aren't just random blips on the radar. They're a sign of something bigger, and the implications stretch from the Pentagon all the way to your backyard. Let's break it down. Espionage, spying from the sky. Let's start with the most obvious concern: espionage. If these drones are being operated by foreign adversaries, the implications are enormous. Think about it. What better way to gather intel on military operations than with a fleet of unmanned, hard-to-trace drones? We know countries like China and Russia have heavily invested in drone technology. In fact, China is a global leader in drone manufacturing, and their government has been accused of using drones for surveillance and data collection. It's not a stretch to imagine these sightings as part of a larger strategy to probe U.S. defenses. Military bases are prime targets for this kind of activity. A drone hovering over a base could be collecting information on troop movements, infrastructure, or even testing our radar and response systems. The goal isn't just to spy, it's to find weaknesses, and if they're finding them, well, that's a problem for all of us. Testing our defenses, poking the bear. What if these drones aren't just about gathering intel, but actively testing our response capabilities? Think of it like poking a bear with a stick. You're trying to see how it reacts, how fast it moves, and what it's willing to tolerate. In military terms, this is known as a probing action. It's a way to gather intel without committing to a full-scale operation. If these drones are foreign operated, their handlers are likely watching to see how quickly we detect them, what kind of countermeasures we deploy, and how much leeway they have before we act. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. In 2019, Iranian forces used drones to attack Saudi oil facilities, catching their defenses off guard. That incident was a wake-up call for many countries, showing just how effective and disruptive drones can be. If these drones are testing us, the implications are clear. Someone out there is gathering data, and they're doing it at our expense. Domestic concerns. Who watches the watchers? But what if the drones aren't foreign? What if they're domestic? That raises a whole new set of questions and problems. The possibility of rogue operators or even private companies conducting unauthorized surveillance is very real. In fact, there's a growing black market for high-end drones and drone components, making it easier than ever for bad actors to get their hands on advanced tech. There's also the question of oversight. If these drones are part of some clandestine U.S. operation, military intelligence or otherwise, who's making sure they're playing by the rules? The lack of transparency around these incidents doesn't inspire much confidence. It's one thing to keep sensitive operations classified. It's another to leave the public in the dark while drones buzz over their homes and neighborhoods. Privacy at risk, the civilian angle. And that brings us to privacy. Drones over military bases are one thing, but what happens when they start showing up over civilian areas? Oh wait, That's already happening. In Pennsylvania, for example, drones have been spotted hovering near suburban neighborhoods. Residents have reported hearing the unmistakable hum of drones late at night, sparking concerns about surveillance and safety. Are these the same drones that are buzzing military bases? No one seems to know. Or if they do, they're not saying. This blurring of lines between military and civilian airspace is unsettling. It raises serious questions about where the boundaries are and who's enforcing them. If we can't keep drones out of restricted airspace, what hope do we have of protecting our own homes and communities? The legal and ethical quagmire. All of this brings us to a larger issue, the legal and ethical implications of drone technology. Right now, the laws governing drones are playing catch-up with the technology itself. The FAA has regulations in place, but enforcement is tricky, especially when it comes to identifying rogue drones and their operators. On the military side, the rules of engagement for dealing with drones are murky at best. Shooting down a drone might seem like a straightforward solution, but it's not that simple. Depending on the situation, it could escalate tensions, violate international law, or even endanger civilians. Ethically, there's a fine line between protecting national security and infringing on personal freedoms. How do we balance the need for surveillance and defense with the right to privacy? And who gets to decide where that line is drawn? Why it matters to you. Here's the kicker. All of this affects you, whether you realize it or not. The same technology that makes drones a threat to national security also makes them a potential threat to your personal safety and privacy. If we don't address these issues at the national level, the fallout will inevitably trickle down to the local level, and eventually to your doorstep. Think about it. If drones can operate with impunity over military bases, what's stopping them from showing up at your kid's soccer game, your backyard BBQ, or your workplace? The technology's already out there, and the barriers to entry are lower than ever. Optimism amid the chaos. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but let's not lose hope. The fact that we're having this conversation is a step in the right direction. Awareness is the first step toward action, and there are plenty of smart, capable people working on these problems right now. Technology may be advancing at a breakneck pace, but so is our ability to adapt. The same ingenuity that created these drones can also create the tools to counter them, if we're willing to invest in the right solutions. In the next section, we'll explore some of those solutions. What tools and strategies are available to combat the drone threat? And how can we strike a balance between security and freedom in this brave new world? All right, it's time to shift gears and talk solutions. We've outlined the problem, mystery drones over military bases, the potential implications, and the gaps in our current systems. But what are we actually doing about it? Or more importantly, what should we be doing about it? Let's dive into the legal frameworks, tactical tools, and strategies at play in addressing this modern challenge. The legal landscape. Flying through a gray zone. Drones are a regulatory nightmare. On one hand, you have the FAA, which oversees civilian airspace and drone operations. On the other, you have the Department of Defense, DoD, which handles national security and military airspace. Somewhere in the middle, you've got law enforcement agencies trying to keep the peace. The problem? None of these entities has full control over the drone issue. It's like a three-headed hydra, and none of the heads are quite sure what the other is doing. For civilian drones, the FAA has rules in place. Drones must stay below 400 feet, avoid restricted airspace, and remain within the operator's line of sight. Violating these rules can result in fines, confiscation, or worse. But here's the catch. Enforcing these rules is extremely difficult, especially when it comes to unidentified drones flying at night or in restricted zones. It's not like these operators are filing flight plans. Military airspace is supposed to be a no-fly zone for civilian drones, but as we've seen, that hasn't stopped them. Even with advanced detection systems, tracking and identifying rogue drones is a challenge, especially when operators use encrypted signals or fly from mobile platforms. The legal framework around counter-drone measures is even murkier. Shooting down a drone might seem like the obvious solution, but under current laws, it's technically illegal for civilians and even law enforcement to interfere with a drone in flight. Why? Because drones are considered aircraft under federal law, and damaging or destroying them is treated as a federal offense. Yes, you heard that right. Shooting down a rogue drone over your property could land you in hot water. For the military, things are a little more flexible, but even they have to navigate a minefield of rules and potential diplomatic fallout. If a drone is suspected of being foreign operated, taking it down could escalate tensions or even violate international treaties. It's a high-stakes game of chess, and every move has consequences. Tactical tools: detect, disable, defend. So if we can't just shoot them down, what can we do? The answer lies in counter-drone technology, a rapidly growing field that's part science fiction, part cutting-edge reality. Let's break it down into three categories: detection, disruption, and defense. Detection systems. The first step in countering a drone threat is knowing it's there. Advanced radar systems, acoustic sensors, and infrared cameras are all being used to detect and track drones in real time. Some systems can even differentiate between a drone and other objects like birds or planes, reducing false alarms. For military bases, these systems are a must-have. One promising technology is RF, radio frequency detection. Many drones rely on radio signals to communicate with their operators, and RF detectors can pick up on these signals to locate both the drone and its pilot. It's like tapping into a secret conversation, and it's a game changer for tracking rogue operators. Disruption tools. Once you've identified a drone, the next step is disabling it. This is where things get really interesting. Instead of shooting drones out of the sky, many counter-drone systems rely on electronic warfare. Jamming devices can disrupt the radio signals that control the drone, forcing it to land or return to its operator. Other systems use spoofing to hijack the drone's navigation system and redirect it to a safe location. One particularly cool innovation is the use of high-powered lasers to disable drones. These lasers can fry a drone's circuits without causing an explosive crash, making them ideal for use near sensitive areas. It's like something out of Star Wars, but it's happening right now. Defensive measures. For areas where drones pose a persistent threat, physical barriers are also an option. Nets, drone-catching drones, and even trained birds of prey have been used to intercept rogue drones. While these methods might seem low-tech compared to electronic jamming, they're surprisingly effective in certain scenarios. The military is also exploring the use of directed energy weapons, such as microwave beams, to disable drones en masse. These weapons can take out multiple drones in a single burst, making them ideal for dealing with swarms. Who's in charge? The coordination conundrum. One of the biggest challenges in addressing the drone threat is coordination. With so many agencies involved, FAA, DoD, DHS, FBI, it's not always clear who's in charge. This lack of clarity can lead to delays and miscommunication, especially in high-pressure situations. To combat this, some experts are calling for a centralized drone task force, similar to how cybersecurity threats are handled. Such a task force would bring together resources and expertise from multiple agencies, creating a more unified response to drone incidents, the future of drone defense. The good news is that the field of counter-drone technology is evolving rapidly. Companies and governments around the world are pouring resources into developing new systems and strategies. From AI-powered detection to next-gen jamming devices, the tools of tomorrow promise to be even more effective than what we have today. But there's a catch. As counter-drone technology improves, so do the drones themselves. It's a classic arms race, with each side trying to outpace the other. Autonomous drones, for example, don't rely on radio signals, making them immune to traditional jamming methods. And as AI becomes more advanced, drones could become harder to track, identify, and disable. The key will be staying one step ahead, investing in research, updating regulations, and fostering collaboration between public and private sectors. It's a tall order, but it's not impossible. Balancing security and freedom. Finally, we have to address the elephant in the room. How do we balance security with personal freedom? The more we invest in counter-drone technology, the more we risk creating a surveillance state where every movement is tracked and monitored. It's a delicate balance, and finding the right equilibrium will be one of the defining challenges of the coming decade. Optimism for the path ahead. Despite the challenges, I remain optimistic. Humanity has a knack for solving problems, especially when the stakes are high. The drone issue is no exception. With the right mix of technology, policy, and public engagement, we can tackle this problem head-on and come out stronger on the other side. Next up, we'll tackle the final question. What does all of this mean for the future? From geopolitics to individual privacy, we'll explore the broader implications of the drone phenomenon and where we go from here. As we wrap up our deep dive into the mystery drones, let's turn our focus to the future. What do these incidents tell us about the world we're heading into? From global power struggles to personal privacy, drones are reshaping the landscape in ways we're only beginning to understand. So let's explore the ripple effects and how we can navigate them. The geopolitical chessboard, a game of drones. The drone phenomenon is more than just a technical challenge. It's a geopolitical reality. Nations around the world are investing heavily in drone technology, not just for defense, but also for offense, surveillance, and even economic purposes. It's not just about who has the best drones. It's about who can use them most effectively. Take China, for instance. They're not just a leader in manufacturing drones, they're exporting them to other countries, including some with questionable human rights records. This creates a new kind of influence, a drone diplomacy that reshapes alliances and power dynamics. Meanwhile, the U.S. is focused on maintaining its technological edge, pouring billions into research and development. These investments aren't just about building better drones. They're about preparing for a future where drones dominate the battlefield. Autonomous drones that operate without human input, swarms that can overwhelm defenses, and even underwater drones for naval warfare are all on the horizon. And it's not just military applications. Drones are being used for border surveillance, disaster response, and even cyber espionage. The lines between military, commercial, and civilian uses are blurring, creating a landscape where everyone, from governments to private companies, has a stake. The impact on privacy, eyes in the sky. As drones become more prevalent, the question of privacy looms larger. It's one thing to use drones for national security, but what happens when they're used to monitor civilian life? We're already seeing this play out with police departments using drones for surveillance, crowd control, and even issuing traffic tickets. On one hand, drones can enhance public safety. They can help locate missing persons, monitor wildfires, and provide real-time intel during emergencies. But on the other hand, they can easily be misused. Without proper oversight, drones could become tools for mass surveillance, eroding personal freedoms in the name of security. The key question is, where do we draw the line? How do we balance the benefits of drone technology with the need to protect individual privacy? And who gets to decide what's acceptable and what's not? These aren't just theoretical questions. They're debates that will shape the next decade. The arms race, keeping up with the tech. As we've discussed, drone technology is advancing at an incredible pace. But it's not just about building better drones. It's about countering them. The arms race between drones and counter-drone systems is in full swing, and the stakes are high. One of the most exciting developments is the rise of AI-powered drones. These systems can operate autonomously, making decisions in real time without human input. While this opens up incredible possibilities, it also raises ethical concerns. Should machines be allowed to make life and death decisions? How do we ensure accountability in an autonomous system? On the defensive side, counter-drone technology is evolving just as quickly. From laser systems to EMP, electromagnetic pulse, weapons, the tools of tomorrow promise to be more effective than ever. But as we've seen with other technologies, there's always a risk of misuse. Who gets to use these tools and under what circumstances? These are questions we'll need to answer sooner rather than later. The role of policy, a framework for the future. If there's one thing that's clear, it's that we need better policies to manage the rise of drones. Right now, the regulatory landscape is a patchwork of federal, state, and local laws, and it's not keeping up with the pace of innovation. One solution is to create a unified national framework for drone operations and counter-drone measures. This would provide clarity for operators, law enforcement, and the public. It would also help address some of the ethical and legal questions surrounding drones, such as their use in law enforcement and the rules of engagement for military systems. Internationally, there's a need for treaties and agreements to prevent a drone arms race. Much like nuclear weapons, drones have the potential to destabilize global security if left unchecked. By establishing clear norms and guidelines, we can reduce the risk of conflict and misuse. The optimistic outlook, embracing the potential. Here's the good news. Drones aren't inherently good or bad. They're tools. And like any tool, their impact depends on how we use them. While the challenges are significant, the opportunities are equally exciting. Imagine a future where drones deliver medical supplies to remote areas, monitor ecosystems to prevent environmental damage, and assist in disaster relief efforts. Imagine a world where drones enhance public safety without infringing on personal freedoms. That's the potential we're working toward. But getting there requires effort. It requires investment in technology, thoughtful policymaking, and a commitment to ethical principles. It requires vigilance, creativity, and, most of all, cooperation between nations, industries, and individuals. What this means for you. So what does all of this mean for the average person? It means staying informed. It means asking questions about how drones are being used in your community and holding leaders accountable. It means understanding that technology isn't something that happens to us. It's something we shape through our choices and actions. The future of drones is being written right now, and whether you realize it or not, you're a part of that story. Looking ahead. As we bring this episode to a close, let's remember that every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. The rise of drones is no exception. By understanding the stakes, embracing innovation, and staying true to our values, we can navigate this new frontier with confidence and purpose. That's a wrap for this episode of Full Spectrum Frontiers. Today, we peeled back the layers on the mystery drones hovering over military bases, exploring everything from the threats they pose to the opportunities they present. It's a complex issue, no doubt, but it's also a chance for us to think critically about the intersection of technology, security, and society. Here's the big takeaway. The drones are a reminder that we're living in a world where the boundaries of conflict and innovation are constantly shifting. But that's not something to fear, it's something to prepare for. Whether it's better policies, advanced technology, or simply staying informed, each of us has a role to play in shaping the future. If today's episode sparked some new ideas or gave you a fresh perspective, do me a favor. Don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, family, or that one coworker who always has an opinion on national security. Hit that like button, leave a review, and help Full Spectrum Frontiers reach more people who care about these critical issues. Before we go, let me tease next week's episode. We're diving into the fascinating world of electromagnetic pulse, EMP weapons, and their potential to change modern warfare. What are they? How do they work? And should you be stocking up on tinfoil hats? You won't want to miss it. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton, and this is Full Spectrum Frontiers, where we explore the challenges of today to prepare for the opportunities of tomorrow. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ready. See you next time.
It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we two peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we seeing the gods. We've been low together, high forever. Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never. And when the world gets a little too hard, wipe your eyes, put away your sorrow. When it's war, I'll be leading the charge, and I'll be still fighting for you tomorrow. Yeah, even with a blindfold or in different time zones, could find my way to you with my eyes closed. There's nothing between us. Go to Mars and Venus, stand in front of every one of them rocks, they slimming and be a shield. Yeah.
In the fiercest battle, I'll defend you from all these arrows in the sword. I will keep you from danger. Let me be your shield.
Yeah, let's go. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield.
You may be facing tribulation, but don't let it get you down. What I'm saying may take patience, but you're gonna make it out. I scorched my own 2 feet to pull you to safety. When the fires are burning